Hey, this video is designed to show you the equipment and things that I use when I teach music lessons online. I'm so excited to show you my rig. If you are interested in taking music lessons or in teaching music lessons online, this is how I do it. And there's also a lot of links and information on how to get or purchase or even make the things that I'm going to show you in this video. The 5 sections are audio hardware, instruments, video hardware, then we go into the computer to audio software, and finally video software. Check it out. So let's start with the visual things that are outside of the computer. Lighting is so crucial to present yourself clearly and professionally, and many people will make the mistake of trying to get better cameras when first they need better lighting. Let me show you what I mean. This is what I look like with just a lamp over in the corner. And then when I turn on the lights that I use for teaching, it takes a second for the front ones to warm up. But man, look at the difference. It's huge. Now look at the same difference on the keyboard camera with the lamp in the corner and the full teaching lights on. Yeah. I watched this guy's video that showed me how to make some really cool homemade lights for around $45 in materials. I took varying sizes of cake pans and glued daylight type LED strips to the inside. Then I glued some diffusion material on the front. I added some PVC pipe to give the clamp something to hold. And then this clamp lets me mount it just about anywhere. So I'm using what filmmakers will call a 3-point lighting system, where I have a key light up and to my left, and there's 3 of the large cake pan lights are up there. And then I take one smaller cake pan light, I put it over here on my right side, and it fills in some of the light on the keyboard in front of me, and also puts a little light on my face to get rid of the harsh shadow that this guy would make. And then finally I took 2 really small cake pans and I put colored LEDs in them, and I put them back here for some accent lights. Now for cameras and other video sources, let's start with what I call the main shot, which is kind of what you're looking at right now. Me, a talking head, talking to the camera, and it's what I use most of the time during a lesson. I found the older iPhone SE, not the current one, but the one that came out in 2016, to be really amazing for this. At the time of this taping, you can purchase one in good condition, used, for around $90, and its 12 megapixel camera on the rear blows away the quality of most webcams out there. I think these iPhone SEs are perfect and really great for the money, and I always plug them into the USB port on the computer because Wi-Fi will give you lag and a lesser quality signal. Now to save on screen space and to mount the eye contact box, I bought this 7-inch HDMI external monitor. We built this box around it to cut off the outside light, to mount the iPhone camera, and to mount the one-way mirror. This allows me to make direct eye contact with my student when we're on the call, and how we made this eye contact box is in another video. Next, I use a microphone boom stand with a phone attachment so I can mount the phone over the keyboard as a second camera. Again, an iPhone SE does super, and I typically use like 2 or 3 settings. A really zoomed in shot when I'm teaching a beginner the basics and I only need a few keys. I'll go with sort of a standard angle that gives me several octaves. And then I take this wide angle lens and I can put it on the camera phone when my students need to see the entire keyboard. Although I lose about half an octave on either end and it's a little out of focus on the edges, but I haven't needed to show a student those octaves yet, so knock on wood. Next, I have a third camera that is an old iSight webcam, and it's mounted so I can get a close-up on the fretboard during guitar lessons. The resolution's not that great, and then I want to upgrade this to another iPhone SE as soon as I can. Now the 4th video source is this iPad Pro, which is plugged into a USB port, because the iPad Pro will output its screen directly to the computer as a video capture device. Now I do a lot of different things with this iPad, but among them are displaying and annotating the notation and documents that the student is working on, and it's also a great whiteboard as I jot things down when I'm teaching. Now I use both method books, my own content that I create, and sometimes purchased sheet music. The method books are either bought from Amazon Kindle and displayed with the Kindle app, or I take the physical book and I scan it into Fourscore using this type of scanning box. Fourscore is a PDF display app for iPad that is purpose-built for musicians, and I have a huge library of music for teaching and performance in it. I also will use a blank Fourscore page and the annotation tools as my whiteboard. As soon as I finish drawing it, I can quickly save or email the student that drawing as a PDF. And side note for piano players, with most beginners I use the method book from Faber because I really like them. But most importantly is they have this iOS app that includes all of the backing music for all of their books. And this app can change the tempo, can loop sections for extra practice. It's really versatile and easy to use. And it's even better to be able to display the app during the lesson. Now on to the instruments that I use for teaching. I teach a wide variety of things, and sometimes multiple instruments and topics on the same lesson. The current setup includes a Roland RD700X keyboard. I use the MIDI for driving virtual instruments in GarageBand and note input into Finale. And the stereo outputs head over to the interface. I use an old Yamaha AG Stomp as a front end for guitars, and it does a bunch of things for me. It has a volume pedal that allows me to easily mute the guitar when I'm plugging or unplugging. And then I have one patch programmed with some compression, and then I use that for electric bass lessons. And another patch that has a mic emulator voiced for acoustic guitars, and a little touch of reverb for acoustic guitar lessons. And just like the keyboard, the AG Stomp has stereo outs that go to the interface. My friend Jeremy made this custom remote control for me and allows me to switch patches easily and remotely so the big pedal is located out of the way. Check out this video he did of the mod. It's really cool. My teaching electric bass is this Honer with active pickups and an active EQ. And this fun detuner on the E string lets me get lower notes easily. My teaching guitar is this Yamaha CPX-15, which has a pickup and a microphone, though I mostly am getting the mic emulation from the AG Stomp. Plus I had Neck Illusions custom make these neck decals so the students can see the note names on the fretboard. To purchase these neck decals for yourself, see the link in the video description below. Now when I'm teaching trumpet lessons, I use this old B-flat trumpet that I got in a pawn shop really cheap, and it works fine. When I perform on trumpet, though, I'm usually either improvising or I'm playing keyboard at the same time. And that means because the trumpet is a transposing instrument, I would typically have to think in two keys at once. So I use this C non-transposing trumpet for performing. And finally, I do use this $40 old Casio keyboard quite a lot for vocal warm-ups and exercises with my vocal students. And I put these keyboard stickers on there when I was teaching some theory with them. La 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 la. Now on to audio hardware. You don't necessarily have to have an audio interface to teach lessons online, but I like to have my instruments plugged in directly. It sounds way better. I use this old MOTU 8-input audio interface that I've had for 10 years. I use 6 inputs from my lessons, 2 from the guitars and the AG Stomp, 2 from the keyboard audio, 1 for my main talking and singing microphone, and 1 in the corner for my trumpet. I'll explain in a second. Now for listening to the student during a call, I use these ridiculously overpriced but really cool Apple AirPods Pro. They sound great and they work wonderful. Now let's talk for a second about delay. The internet creates a delay that I don't think will ever go away. So when you're doing online lessons, you can't play music synchronously at the same time with your student. It's short enough for conversations, but it's not fast enough for music. And then Bluetooth itself also introduces a slight delay. This is not a problem during lessons, but when I first got them, I found out that when I played my instruments here in my studio, If I had the sound of the instruments routed to my AirPods, there would be a slight delay from the Bluetooth that would make it really distracting to play. So I route my instruments into my studio speakers, and I have it kind of low so that it doesn't bleed into the microphone that I'm talking, but also the microphone is not in the speakers to avoid feedback. Then I found out that the microphone that's in these AirPods does not sound all that great on the other end of the call, so this Shure headset mic works a lot better. Here's what it sounds like with my AirPods. And here's what it sounds like with my Shure mic. Now this microphone doesn't work so great with my trumpet lessons because the bell of the trumpet's kind of so far away that it sounds weird. So I put this microphone over in the corner to catch my trumpet directly, and I added some reverb at the interface, and then I put this dedicated on-off switch for the microphone so that when I'm not in trumpet lessons, I can have it off, because when it's on, it picks up the sound of the room, the reverb, and especially the sound of my keyboard thumping in the room. Ugh. Now let's move inside the computer, starting with audio software. I have a relatively older Mac Mini with only 16 gigs of RAM, but I barely use 8 gigs of it during a lesson. Of course, every port on the back of the Mini is full, and if I had a newer computer, I could run the cameras at a higher resolution and things, but at the moment what I have works okay. All of the audio from the outside runs into the MOTU interface, and then I use Rogue Amoeba's Loopback software to route everything inside the computer. Loopback allows me to make 2 mixes, one for the student that includes all the instruments, the microphones, and any computer audio that I might use, like if I play an MP3 or a YouTube video from the web browser. And then the second mix just puts the computer audio into my AirPods, because the instruments come from the speakers, and I don't need to hear my own voice. And then the video conferencing software takes the student mix as its microphone and sends the speaker containing the student's audio to my AirPods. Last but not least, let's look at video software. I use OBS Studio to mix the various video sources together to present one combined video feed to the student. OBS lets me create a scene of various video sources, and then I assign a hotkey to that scene. So F1 is my main headshot. F2 shows the iPad, but it keeps a cropped headshot of me as a picture-in-picture. F3 for the piano camera with a headshot PIP, and so forth. OBS Studio is free and open source, and it's absolutely amazing. I set the encoder setting on a medium speed to give my processor a break, and if I had a faster computer I would crank up the encoder and the resolution of the cameras, but I get a pretty good picture with what I have, I think. Oh, and by the way, the phones are using an app called OBS Camera for iOS, which has a plugin that goes into OBS Studio. My next plan to upgrade is to take all of the video mixing stuff and upgrade it to this ATEM mini switcher or something like it. It does the encoding and switching between the cameras, and then the computer only has to process one video feed. Now for all of this to work, I found it's best for me to use Google Meet. Google Meet allows me to use the virtual camera of the combined video sources where FaceTime does not. And Zoom puts a little heavier processor load on my computer, so if you need to use Zoom I can do that, but Google Meet also really integrates well with Google Calendar, so when I schedule a lesson with somebody, that scheduling has already got a Google Meet link built in. Way cool. So then I usually have a browser open during a lesson with my email client and a Google Doc that I share with the student as a checklist of things to practice. It also has notes from the lesson, a place to collaborate on questions, all kinds of stuff. I'm finding that Safari on my Mac is faster at this task, and then I leave only one tab of a stripped down Google Chrome open to run Google Meet, and this keeps things running pretty smoothly. If I use Chrome for other things, it tends to slow down the computer more than I like. So it might seem a little complicated, but during a lesson everything flows really smoothly. Switching between the various video sources, all the audio sounds good. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email me. And if you want to show your appreciation, you can click the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. Thanks for letting me show you my gear. I hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you on the next video.